with American songwriter. We had the privilege of talking to John McEuen from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Adam was able to talk to John of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band over the phone. John McEuen is the founding member of the legendary country bluegrass act, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. John told us stories about growing up in Orange County with the legend Steve Martin, the formation of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and being the first U.S. artist to play in Russia. John has personally logged more than 9,500 concert appearances and traveled more than 3 million miles on the road, both during his time as a member of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and now as a solo performer.
And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page at Bringing It Backwards, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with John McEuen from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Yeah, so our podcast is all about your journey in music, really. I just kind of want to get the early story about how you got into music and how you eventually started or joined Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Well, that goes way back a long time.
So I read that you grew up in Oakland. Is that true?
No, I was born in Oakland. I grew up in Southern California.
Oh, what part? That's where I'm at.
Garden Grove.
Oh, really? Okay, we're in San Diego.
So
you're like Long Beach area-ish? Garden Grove?
Garden Grove, Orange County.
Orange County, cool. So born in Oakland and grew up in Southern California.
Yeah, I moved down there freshman in high school, and was basically a dork, and then I graduated as a nerd, and then I started playing the banjo about the first year after, the senior year, right around there. I got a job in Disneyland, my dream job that Steve Martin and I were both trying to get. He was going to be my senior. He was going to be my senior year compatriot at Garden Grove High School, and we were both trying to get the job the summer before senior year, and we got it, working in the magic shop in Disneyland.
Wow.
And I worked on Main Street, and he was appropriately in Fantasyland. But it was started a friendship that continues to this day.
Yeah, you wrote a record with him. You won a Grammy with him, didn't you?
Yes, in 2010, I produced his album, The Crow, and it was considered the best bluegrass album and won a Grammy Award.
That's amazing.
And yes, it was. We were both amazed at that, Mm-hmm. I mean, you'd think a guy that's hosted the Oscars and won Emmys and stuff would go, a Grammy for a bluegrass album, but no, it was one of the most important awards that he's gotten.
Yeah.
And anyway, that was because he started playing the banjo at the same time I did. I we were in my parents' living room in 1963, and there was a friend of my brother's playing the banjo, and he knew like 5 songs. We thought he was a genius. Never heard it before. You just didn't hear banjo before then. And Steve ended up buying a banjo from him, and so did I. He had a music store in Long Beach called McCabe's Guitar Shop.
Okay.
And not the famous McCabe's. This was an extension.
Okay.
And the other McCabe's is up in Santa Monica.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, that went well, and I started playing, and I learned a lot faster than he did, and we both learned out of the Pete Seeger how to play the 5-string banjo. I learned an awful lot, but you had to go beyond that, and I'd gone beyond that ahead of him, and I'd show him something, and he learned it. He was a quick study, and then he started being funny and doing comedy, and he used the banjo as a prop to when he couldn't think of anything funny to say, he'd play the banjo for a minute. And
is that kind of how that started? Because I know he still does that. When he tours, he plays banjo when he does stand up.
Well, he does a lot now, and I get a lot of people saying, "Have you heard Steve Martin play?" Yeah.
yeah, I taught him.
And he's nice enough to say that I was his teacher, but yeah, he learned a lot on his own. I didn't teach him how to write songs. He figured that out on his own.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I figured it out too. But I've been playing a few years, and it was 1966, and I needed to get in a band. I wanted to get in the band. I thought I needed to get in a band. And Les Thompson called me. Les Thompson, he was a member of a group called the Wilmore City Moonshiners. That was him and me and two other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And we were a bluegrass group. Les was 16. I was 19. And we did that for almost a year. Played pizza parlors and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I quit. Then the band broke up.
Original
the first
songs?
band broke up.
Were you guys doing original songs?
Pardon?
Were you playing original stuff, or was it mainly
covers? Nobody'd written a song by then.
Okay.
Les was 16. One guy was 17. I was 19. We're just trying to figure out what to do to stay out of school, and or after school.
Sure.
And this little bluegrass band was basically a clone of the Dillards, the group the Dillards. That's the reason I started playing music. Was because of Doug Dillard. I went to see Doug Dillard one night and then see the Dillards play at a coffee house before the Dirt Band.
Wow.
Several years before the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And
mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there watching something I didn't know what it was going to be. And it took me away. I had to figure out how to get on that stage playing the banjo. But I had to have a banjo first.
Sure.
I had to learn how to play it. I had to,
How'd you get the banjo?
17.
You said you got it at that
I was
guitar
17.
store.
Yeah. I got it for my 18th birthday from my father.
Okay.
Who told me, this music thing, I think you're going down the wrong road. He changed his mind. He changed his mind a few years later when the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band had started.
Uh-huh.
I started playing when I was 17, and when I was 20, the Dirt Band had started. That's how Les called me up. Remember, I said Les and I had a bluegrass group,
mm-hmm.
kind of, and we broke up. And a year goes by. I go off and play with Michael Martin Murphy. Do you recognize that name?
It
Wildfire, Carolina in the Pines, and a bunch of records on Warner Brothers. Michael Murphy.
Okay.
And it was a group called the Texas Twosome. Only there were four of us, and I wasn't from Texas. And one of the other guys was. And I figured after 6 months, this isn't for me. And I was between playing solo shows around Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Les called me up and said, "Hey, the guys at the music store are getting together to start a band. You want to come? I think you ought to play with us."
Mm-hmm.
He was 17 at the time, and I went and played with Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. They'd been together a couple months.
Okay.
They'd been together 2 months. Let's see, May, June. This was July. I said, "Hey, Les, if they could learn Dismal Swamp," which was a song that I'd written with my brother, a banjo instrumental,
mm-hmm.
I'll use them at the Topanga Canyon Banjo Contest. I'm going to enter. Oh, okay, great. And so they learned that song, and I won the contest. And I figured, well,
wow,
this is a good group to stay with.
Uh-huh.
and the group, it was a bunch of guys. I had hopes of getting on the radio, but you need songs different than Shimmy Like My Sister Kate to get on the radio. Mm-hmm. And Coney Island Washboard, which was some of the songs we did. And one of our friends wrote a song called Buy For Me the Rain.
Okay.
And we learned that and put it into our set. Now, I got into the Dirt Band in August, officially, of 66.
Mm-hmm.
My brother started managing in September. And by February 7th, we put out our first album.
Wow.
And I was wondering why did it take so long?
Yeah. Seems pretty
we only
quickly
knew
after you guys joined, or you guys got.
Oh, it was really. was a lightning quick, but when you're that age, you think things should be faster.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing that the record ended up on the radio, and it actually made it to the top 40.
Wow.
By For Me the Rain. And I fulfilled my dream. I put the 5-string banjo on top 40 airwaves.
That's so crazy.
Behind Bruce and Jeff singing, and that was the big starting of our career.
Well, tell me about recording that. You said that was quick. So your brother is the manager. You joined the band
at that time,
and then you got and then what? Like 3 months later, do you have a record done?
Well, no. September, October, November, and he's looking for a record company. Finds one in December. Record in December, January. Mix and everything, and it comes out in February.
Wow!
Came out in February, and that was the first album, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Yeah,
a bunch of guys on a bulldozer on the cover.
Yeah, wow. And so that all started from just that guitar shop that you ended up getting the banjo from.
Yes, hanging around the guitar shop. There was a coffee table. There was about 6 or 7 chairs around the coffee table. The coffee table was surrounded by walls that had records and books on them of folk music and Doc Watson and the Carter family. All these people that were mysterious. Never, Merle Travis and Flatt and Scruggs and Jimmy Martin and all these albums looking at us and the books about the things. And, it was a folk music, acoustic music instrument store on Anaheim Street in Long Beach. And we're all hanging around, and not any specific schedule, just hanging around playing songs. Hey, do you know this one? Yeah, John Sebastian did it with the Spoonful. And, you know this one? This is from 1932. This is a different, and time went by. I went through my freshman and sophomore year of college hanging out at McCabe's. And by the time I got over that, the band had started.
Wow.
And these young guys had the first hit, and we went on the road. And I also, at that time, had to become road manager. I mean, I had to because I was the 21.
The oldest one?
I was the oldest one, and I could rent a car, and they couldn't.
Oh. Okay.
And, we're flying to Portland. Well, how are we going to get to this gig? Well, I guess I'll rent a car or a truck or something. We didn't have much equipment. And so that shaped up pretty quick. Within 6 months, I'm road managing a band on the road as well as playing in it.
Wow.
And sending the money home to my brother or wiring it and ending up in I went into a bank in Boston one of those days. I said, "Can I wire money to an LA bank from here?" Yes, you can. Well, I don't have it now. I'll be back tomorrow. And I came back the next day and I wired $1,500. This is 1967, by the way.
Yeah.
And $1,500 was a lot of money then.
Sure.
And the guy looked at me and says, "Where did you get this money?" I said, "Soybeans. They went up yesterday." And the guy, my hair's down to my shoulders or whatever, and he's looking at me weird. And I went and looked at the stock market, and sure enough, soybeans had like doubled or something.
So he could have believed you there.
Yeah. And anyway, so we're on the road, getting to New York and all these wonderful places. How do you get around? And how do you get around? Where's Cincinnati? And all that stuff.
And had you ever been to any of these places before, or was it all kind of new?
No.
Also.
Well, I'd been to New York when I was 15 with my father and mother, or 14, and just went there and stayed 2 days and left. But no, everything was new. And you can read about how everything was new in this book, The Life I've Picked, which I've written, and it was out a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
105.
Sorry, go ahead.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
You
Sorry.
were saying?
I was just saying that's your biography that you wrote.
Well, it's what happened to me and around me and in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a total biography, but sure, some of it is. If you cover 50 years of music and a past and raising 6 kids and playing solo and playing with other people and playing with a band and sitting in one day with Bill Monroe and doing a show the next day with REO's Speedwagon.
Wow.
And then playing some kind of bluegrass festival with Doc Watson. It's a weird path I have been able to be on, and I'm very grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
Doing Paint Your Wagon, the movie, Paramount Pictures' Paint Your Wagon in 1968, was a total different thing for a group to have in their history.
Mm-hmm.
Being on a movie set for 4 months with Clint Eastwood and other people, Lee Marvin, and making that movie, Paint Your Wagon. It's been a couple other guys in the band don't ever like to talk about it, but I do. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. How did you guys get that gig? Or how did that all kind of come together?
Paint Your Wagon. I'm sitting in my brother's office on Sunset Boulevard, the building with the 2 glass elevators right by Whiskey A Go-Go.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a little office there. It's 1968. He's reading Variety. I'm eating lunch. He goes, "Wow, this is it. What? This is good. Perfect. I got to call him." And he'd been reading Daily Variety. And in it, it said, trying out auditioning for the roles of miners to play an 1848 band in Paint Your Wagon. Movie will be shot in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and auditioned. We went to the Paramount lot on stage 2, auditioned for the director, Joshua Logan, and the guy who wrote it. What's his name? Joshua Logan. And anyway, the guy who wrote it, and they listened, a huge soundstage, and this little 6-piece band playing a bunch of weird music, all acoustic, no drums, and we play a song, and then they sit there, they talk quietly, and then, do another song. We do another song, and they sit there and chat. Anyway, at the end of it, Alan Lerner, the guy that was the writer, said, "We're going to use you, boys. It's going to be a big break for you. A big break for you. Yeah, we're going to use you in the movie. A big break." It's like, yes, sir. So we spent 4.5 months up on the set in Baker, Oregon. And that's all in the book, too. A whole chapter called Paint Your Wagon. And after that, Jeff Hanna broke up the Dirt Band.
Oh.
He was the lead singer.
Mm-hmm.
We got back, and he said, "I don't want to do it anymore. Let's close it up." That was good. We made 4 albums. We've made 4 albums. We were in one horrible movie and one big cool movie. And let's go do other things. And 6 months later, Jeff and I were watching Poco at the Golden Bear. And you know what that is?
No.
The Golden Bear?
Uh-uh.
In Huntington Beach, there was a very cool club called the Golden Bear. And everybody played there. Everybody just everybody. Look up Golden Bear. Google Golden Bear, Huntington Beach, and you'll see the list of incredible players that played there. And we were at the Golden Bear one night watching the new band Pogo, P-O-G-O.
Mm-hmm.
Walter Lance hadn't sued them yet about using the name of his cartoon character. There's a cartoon called Pogo.
Yeah.
And they got sued. They changed their name to Poco, and they were good to go. And they were just blowing the roof off the place. And Jeff and I looked at each other and said, "Let's get the band back together and find a singing drummer." And we hadn't used drums really.
Uh-huh.
And we found Jimmy Ibbotson. Jimmy Ibbotson came into the Dirt Band that year, and he brought his bass, guitar, his drums, and he was a new spark of energy, a great singer, the best singer the band has ever had. and he was there for the next 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. About 8 or 9 years. Then he went away for 3 or 4. And then he came back in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and he had songs like Dance Little Jean, which was a country hit,
Uh-huh.
Long Hard Road. He sang Long Hard Road, went to #1.
Wow.
He was a great singer. When Long Hard Road started, started with just a guitar
Mm-hmm.
in D tuning, open tuning, and the singer. Way back in my memory, there's a scene that I recall, and he's up there singing, and I'm playing the guitar, and I'm thinking, this sounds like a hit record.
Yeah.
One of 5 times I've said that to myself, and I said that with Bojangles and a couple other songs.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, King Tut, that sounded like a hit. We played on the music for King Tut, the Steve Martin song.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The band used the band name the Toot Uncommons, and a cute reference to the drug world, which I didn't think it was a good idea, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hit. King Tut went to #2 on the Billboard chart. They didn't want a comedy record. They didn't want a comedy record to be #1.
Of course not.
and so that put us with Jimmy Ibbotson in the band. We had a bunch of several pop hits.
Mm-hmm.
House at Pooh Corner, Mr. Bojangles, some of Shelley's Blues, and then some FM radio hits in the 70s, and Rippling Waters, one of his songs,
Mm-hmm.
and some other things. And Linda Ronstadt recorded with us on a couple different times. And then when Jimmy Ibbotson was out of the band, wait a minute, was he? Yeah, he's out of the band in '79. Jeff got Linda Ronstadt to sing An American Dream. Voila, an American Dream. We can travel, girls. And that went into the top 10 pop chart. And then we hit the country world.
Okay.
But around 1972, an album called was being put together. In 1970, I'd seen Doc Watson playing in Pasadena. I went to see him. It was really crowded after the show, and it was impossible to meet him. But I met his son, and I told his son I had an idea. I want to get Doc and Earl Scruggs together to record with the Dirt Band. Mm-hmm. And you're playing in Boulder, Colorado in 3 months, and Earl's there the week before you, and I'm going to go ask Earl. Now, Earl Scruggs had come to see the Dirt Band 6 months earlier in 1970.
Oh.
In October of 1970, he saw us play at Vanderbilt University, thanks to his son Gary Scruggs bringing the entire family to the show. That's where we first met. And one of the songs we did in our show was Randy Lynn Rag, and Earl Scruggs ripping banjo tune. And he was kind enough to say, when I asked him, Earl, why'd you come see the Dirt Band? I just wanted to meet the boy who played Randy Lynn Rag the way I intended to.
Oh, that's cool.
And, yeah, darn right it was cool.
Yeah, wow.
23-year-old banjo picker. And I was playing fiddle and mandolin and guitar also on different songs. And anyway, that led to 6 months later, he's at this club in Boulder, Colorado. Mm-hmm. And I asked him if he'd record with the Dirt Band one of those nights he was there. And he said, well, I'd be proud to. And that blew me away. I couldn't go to sleep that night.
Oh, my gosh.
And a week later, Doc Watson was playing there, and I ran up to Merle Watson, and I said, Earl said yes. Oh, I got to ask your dad if he'd record too. Oh, this will be good for Daddy. Yeah, this folk music thing is kind of dying out. The crowds are getting smaller. And so, good for Daddy? Let's ask him. He said yes. He talked to my brother that night. Anyway, what you're hearing about is the beginning of the Circle Be Unbroken album.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the album of the Circle Be Unbroken?
Yes, I am familiar with that album. It's like,
Well,
yeah, good. Go ahead. Sorry.
good. And fast forward, the album gets made. 8 weeks later, we recorded 34 songs in 6 days.
Wow.
All done two-track recording, not multi-track. You play the song and you got it? Okay, next song. And when you record two-track and you finish a song, it's done. There's no mixing.
And then you just do an overdub? How do you do that? Like, it's just two-track?
You do it. You actually have to know the song.
Wait, you mean I can't punch in and screw up a bunch of times?
No, you can't. What happens is what goes down on tape, and it was just like the old days.
Uh-huh.
When it wasn't this 20 years earlier, a few years earlier, they were making all recordings were one take. The groups had to know the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of that record. It made it to the Library of Congress, and it's also in the Grammy Hall of Fame.
And it's like one of the most, I think Rolling Stone, somebody said that it's like the most important record to ever come out of Nashville.
Yeah, that's nice enough to say that. Thank you, Rolling Stone.
That's one of the best compliments I've ever heard, considering the city that they're talking about. I mean, man,
couldn't get much better than that. And the Ken Burns Country Music Show?
Uh-huh.
Episode 6 was called Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And they closed out that show for about a half an hour interviewing me for that program to show the pictures that I have of it and talk about how it was made like we're doing here.
Wow.
And ever since that Ken Burns show aired last September, wow, the Circle album has been in the top 3 or 4 on 3 different Amazon charts. It goes from number 2 to number 1 to number 3 to number 2.
Wow.
It's been there for a year. And it's never left. It went down to 80 or 120 at one point, but it's the dark side of the moon of bluegrass.
Right. Yeah, totally. Wow. How incredible.
And so that's a wonderful thing. And then we went to Nashville in the 80s
mm-hmm.
and made a deal with Warner Brothers Records. I think it was 5 albums and had a bunch of country hits there and
mm-hmm.
played the country music game for a while. And I left in 1989 for a dozen years. And I had people telling me, the band's not going to do much without you. I said, well, don't worry. They're going to find something.
Uh-huh.
I know it's too good to, my alma mater is going to win the series. You watch,
Yeah.
And sure enough, Fishing in the Dark came along.
Oh, wow.
And a couple years after I left, they had a number 1 record again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big song that's a really big song for them. I mean, even looking on like Spotify playlists, it has like 85 million plays on here. But I don't think that many, but it's got quite a few. It's a lot. I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
It's almost 86, but a lot. Yeah, I mean,
what?
Yeah, on Spotify, Fishing in the Dark, 85,821,324 plays.
Look up Mr. Bojangles, please.
That one has over 10 million.
Oh man. Well, it had real airplay back in the day.
I'm sure.
In fact,
is just off
Bojangles,
of whatever people found on Spotify, or maybe it was on a playlist or something.
Yeah, Bojangles was on the record charts for 36 weeks.
Wow.
And almost a year.
That's crazy.
It was just, it would not go away. And at the same time, Jackson 5 had 3 number 1 hits come and go. With their 12, 13-week records.
Mm-hmm.
They have, they just followed one after another. But Bojangles just number 16, number 14, number 18, Went to 13. It went to 13, and the record company said, it's over. And you've never heard anyone say, we've got a top 13 record.
Right.
You know? Well, I'd like, how do we get to the top 10? We want to get it there. It's been up there. Well, there's only one way you can get to the top 10. That's if you play a certain Catholic girls' school in Manhattan. What?
Yeah.
Why would that do any good? Well, Rick Sklar, the man who programmed ABC in New York, his daughter went to that school.
Oh.
And that's the way it works. And his daughter went to that school, and if you played it, he'd consider playing your record, because he said in the months previous, that Bojangles record, I'm not going to play that. He was playing 25 records, you know, over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't something he was going to play. So there we were, Friday morning, setting up to play at the junior high Catholic girls' school to play for the lunch program. You know, and I asked the sister, who else has played the lunch program for your girls? Oh, we've been very lucky. This year we've had Paul Simon. He's a very good singer. Oh, and the Jackson 5. They really know how to dance. And that British boy, John Lennon, he was here early in the year.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, really? Well, you know, we have an important show to get ready for. That was on Friday. And on Monday, we drove out of Manhattan, and I heard ABC radio say, here's a new song by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Mr. Bojangles.
Wow.
And it went to the top 10. And it wouldn't have gone to the top 10 if ABC didn't play it.
Uh-huh.
Because ABC was followed. ABC was BCN in Boston, Quixie in Atlanta, different stations, Cincinnati, LS in Chicago. They wouldn't touch the record if ABC wasn't having success with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting how
By
that
success,
is. I mean, I've done radio for 15 years, and I remember I would watch bands do that, like, or artists and stuff, like, where other radio stations wouldn't pick up the song unless, you know, the bigger flagship stations do. It's funny how that works.
well, it's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And you could say that's not right or whatever. Well, look, you want to play this game? Yeah. Okay. Well, here's one of the things.
Yeah. Here's how to do it.
You also have to do a lot of free shows. You know, free shows for benefits and
right.
Different things. And it's a lot of them some of them, the free shows are TV shows. You don't get paid to do television. You don't get paid what it costs to do it.
Oh, you don't get paid.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just you just do it for the publicity, so to speak.
Well, they pay you after scale to do, say, the Tonight Show, and let's say it's one of the years it's in New York.
Uh-huh.
And you have a 5-piece band, and they're going to pay you the $320 after scale, after American Federation of Television Radio Artists, of which you have to be a member to do television. So you're a member, you join. They pay you after scale. You have to be there the day before in New York City because the show tapes at 4:00. So you're there the day before and the day of. Your hotel rooms alone for 7 people will cost $2,500. $2,000. The car, a couple $100. The truck, the equipment. It's going to cost you $5,000 to do that show, and you're going to make $1,500. Except they pay the individuals, and that's a nice thing. You get that after check. But then they put on the end of the show promotional consideration provided by Capitol Records, which means that they bill Capitol Records for that $320 or whatever it is they paid each guy.
Oh.
So they don't and Capitol Records charges that against your royalties.
Oh my gosh! So so you should just show up
and
play.
You sign a piece of paper at many TV shows. Maybe not lately, but it's a different world now. But this is back then.
Mm-hmm.
You sign a piece of paper that says, "I do not participate in kickbacks." You know, when you're participating in helping a kickback by having your record company pay them so the TV show can pay you.
Oh, like payola type thing, kind of?
No, it's not payola. It's like you want your little band on our TV show. You have to pay us what they cost.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the record company pays the after scale, $320 or whatever it was a person,
mm-hmm.
and charges it against your royalties of what you're going to make. And the record and the players, they get their few $100s, and then you have a $5,000 hotel bill and transportation and food and everything for everybody being there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the way it was. It might still be, but
right? Yeah.
It's television. How else are you play to more people doing the Tonight Show than you can play to in 20 years of doing clubs around the country.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Well, you played like Johnny Carson, right? In the very, very beginning.
That's the Tonight Show. The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson, and you played that in the early. You played it like early on with the first single, though, right?
We did it 3 times, I think.
Was the first time pretty nerve-wracking?
Well, it was fun. Yeah. The first time was fun.
Mm-hmm.
We were in New York City. We already had hotel rooms, so it didn't cost us as much to do the show. But we were playing a club called the Bitter End. This was 1967.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted us to, they didn't want us. They don't want anybody. The agents convinced them they needed us to do Buy For Me the Rain, the hit song, you know. And we ran back to the hotel room between sets at the club to see us on the Tonight Show. And the song starts on the instrumental part, and then the singing starts, and the lead singer's vocal mic was off.
Oh my gosh!
For 3 verses, it was off, and
wow.
That's well, as my mom said, you boys look really good.
She could hear you playing.
Yeah, she was happy.
Oh my gosh, how crazy! So is Mike did they finally figured it out? Obviously,
I think so.
Yeah.
You didn't. Yeah, I don't have a tape of that show. I don't think there is a tape, but it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. Wow. And then go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. Then you said you left the band for a little bit of time, and that was when you started pursuing your solo career, right?
That was 20 years later.
Oh, so when you
21 years after the band started, I figured, well, I'm 21 years old in band time, old enough to leave the house. I didn't like some of the music. I didn't like some of the politics. I didn't like the direction. I was getting divorced. I had 6 kids. I had was raising the kids. Let's see, they were between 8 and 18 at the time, and I was living in Colorado, and I left the group. And it was weird because the first night out of the house, I didn't have any place to stay. I was just gone, you know. And I walked into a grocery store at 10 o'clock at night, and Mr. Bojangles came on the PA system.
It's like taunting you, kind of?
What?
I said, was it kind of taunting you? Like, hey.
Yes, it was, because I figured that is the reason I'm getting divorced. I was on the road promoting that song, la, la, la. And this was this was a good 15 years after Bojangles, you know.
Oh, okay.
After
after
this was in late 1980s,
Mm-hmm.
and but you know, and then I'm driving to the house to pick up the kids, and Dave Mason comes on the radio on the way there. There ain't no good guys. There ain't no bad guys. It's only you and me, and we just disagree. Almost drove off the road.
Oh my God.
Or you turn on the radio, and it's Little River Band. Have you heard about the Lonesome Loser? You know, Lonesome Loser by Little River Band.
Yeah.
Or Happy Anniversary. Yeah, Happy Anniversary. But all that's worked out, and I've got my second wife I've been married to longer. Her name's Marilyn. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. And this is, anyway, this is a different time.
Yeah, yeah. And recently, so what have you been, like recently, are you still playing and writing and everything?
I'm COVID has made a few things different.
Well, yeah.
But
right prior to COVID.
now, prior to COVID, I was doing about 100 cities a year.
Wow.
I left the Dirt Band again. I joined up in the year 2001, and that ran for another 16 years, me with it.
Okay.
And in the 50th year, at the end of the 50th year tour, I said goodbye. I said, I'm done. I have too many things to do. And in all that time, I was back with the group from 2001 to 2017 or 18. We made 2 albums.
Wow.
2 albums. Come on, guys, let's start it out. Well, I made 4 albums. I made 4 albums of my own and produced 3 other albums of other people. I did 5 film scores. I produced concerts. You know, it's like the band was just lazy. You know, they were playing and we the same set list for 11 years, driving me crazy.
Gosh. Yeah,
it's like the same set list, and I just couldn't do it. Anyway, it was a wonderful thing. I reached a lot of people. It was a wonderful thing to do, and 50 years. You know, that's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time. As my agent said when I said, hey, I'm thinking of leaving the Dirt Band. Do you think it's a good idea? He said, John, 50 years is long enough for anything.
That's good. That's a good response.
I said, 50 years? Oh, that's right. It has been.
Oh, my God.
Get me out of here.
I want to ask you real quick about playing. You know, you guys got to be the first band, American band, to play the Iron Curtain.
What you mean by that is the Soviet Union, or better known as Russia.
Yeah.
Yes. We did 28 sold-out shows in a month of May of 1977. It was really exciting.
How did you guys get the clearance to do that?
The Russians were committed to bringing over an American group. We brought over the Bolshoi Ballet and some other things, the string quartet, and they had to bring over a democratic American group. And they looked at several other groups, and they picked us.
Wow. That must have been a pretty cool honor. I mean...
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a responsibility, an honor, a weird thing, because the Russian audience had no idea of very much. I mean, I signed albums. I signed a 15-year-old Temptations album and a Diana Ross album from 1962, and smuggled things, you know. And there was every town had one radio station, and if you wanted a radio, you'd go buy a radio that was tuned to that station's town. To that town station.
So you couldn't flip through the frequencies. Wow.
No, just a volume knob and your radio. Wow. And I always figured if a Russian defects to New York City, wanted to hear radio, you go out and buy 85 radios.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
No, it's all in one radio here. So you just turn this other dial that you didn't have. And it was illegal to possess foreign currency of any kind,
Wow.
dollars, change. And the ruble was not exchanged for money anywhere but Russia. So if you could not exchange the ruble for francs or Deutschmarks or anything, dollars, then what are you going to do when you defect and you have to eat?
Right.
You're in France or London and you have to eat or take a cab or something. Well, it's what helped keep people in. So dollars, hey, you want to sell your dollar? I give you 2 rubles for $1. I give you 5 rubles for $1. And a ruble is worth supposedly something about like $1.87 when the government would change them for governmental reasons. But I had offers as much as 5 rubles for $1.
Wow.
And
Just
you wouldn't sell them.
They wanted them because they couldn't get them. They didn't have access to the dollars.
Right.
Right. Okay.
If they had dollars, if you had $100 and you defected, you'd be able to get somewhere.
Right.
You know, when you landed, when you stepped down, when you got off the plane, the boat, whatever.
Right.
But if you had nothing, you would be a street person that couldn't speak the language or whatever.
Right.
And you couldn't have things that were not approved. And that meant books, instruments, magazines, records. They got music in thanks to Radio Free Europe blasting away. Music got there. That's why the radio stations only had a volume knob. They didn't want to have a dial so they can maybe tune in Radio Free Europe.
Right. They just wanted to keep it to their whatever they were broadcasting.
Yeah, we don't want to be listening to that propaganda.
Right.
Not good. It's all lies.
Right. Wow. So
but
was it like, did they have to search your stuff a bunch of times? Like, did you know all of this going into it?
No.
Like, how did you guys get around? And did they have like a escort for you?
The tour was a very high level tour. We played an average of 2,000 to 5,000 people a night.
Wow.
And there was 28 shows in 30 days. Some of the days we had 2 shows, so there were some days off. And there was an impact and we did a TV show at the end of the tour that was played to 135 million people.
Whoa.
And because it was on the TV station that everybody watched. They didn't have another station to watch, so they watched the one that was showing things rather than dead air. And we did one of the last concerts was.
So the whole show is televised, or you guys came on and did a song? How did that work?
No, one of the last concerts was televised.
Okay, the whole
we
show.
did it for television. It was towards the end because there were a lot of people that hadn't seen it, and there's a bunch of American guys, and yeah, it was.
I'm surprised
running cameras.
I'm surprised that they gave you guys that freedom. I mean, you could have went up there and said anything you wanted,
Well, we were asked to not say some things, and rather than disrupt the tour, we chose not to worry about it. The music is what counted,
right? And
we took a lady named Jan Garrett with us to be a female singer, and have her sing a couple of songs for the female side of American music, and we did a Chuck Berry song, and we did a bunch of Dirt Band songs, and it was an hour and 40-minute show that encompassed more American music than the band actually was doing. But let's put it this way: some of the FM cuts that we would have over here, some of the popular maybe a slow song. We didn't do those. We did we did Promised Land instead. The Chuck Berry song, Promised Land, with Jeff doing the duck walk and stuff. We were representing their first time seeing American music. It was an important event.
Yeah.
And it was quite exciting to be the Beatles and Bruce Springsteen and everybody rolled up into one. We were it.
Yeah.
So we better do good.
Right. Did they look through your lyrics or had to okay the songs, or it was just kind of like do your thing?
No, they did, but we didn't. There was nothing. They liked Battle of New Orleans because we were fighting the British.
Okay.
Yeah. That song.
Because sometimes that they, especially at the time when it's a socialist government, they're not going to let you say whatever you want. So I figured that they might censor your lyrics or look at your lyrics, but that's great that you guys.
Well, you can say whatever you want in these songs, but you don't want to say things that are upsetting to people or maybe a lie or something. And we kind of go along with that. Yeah, well, that's one reason I think the Dirt Band worked for him is it's fairly safe. Rocky Top would be hard to pick apart.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bojangles, different things. It was a interesting time.
Yeah.
And we came back from that and broke up and reformed. Jimmy, Jeff, and I stayed together. Then we got Jim Ibbotson back in the band, and a guy playing keyboard. And then the band went for the next many years as that. Then Jimmy Ibbotson left again in 2005. It was an interesting thing, People come and go.
Yeah.
But the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band carries on. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was a very important part of my life, and one I appreciate. I still talk to one of the guys that started it, Jeff Hanna, I mentioned several times here. I talked to him by email. But Jimmy Fadden, the other original member, it's funny, he didn't play on the first two hits, but that's okay. He didn't play on Bojangles and never mentioned it. But anyway,
wow.
Bobby Carpenter has been called the new guy since he got in 1980, and but he's a good guy. He and I wrote a couple songs together, and it was a fun thing. And Jimmy Ibbotson came in and left, and then came back in and then left again. And he left behind a great heritage of songs, many of which are known as hits by the band. And he's been kind of chilling out in Colorado. But I carry on, and I put out the book, The Life I Picked.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. It's easy to find on Amazon. It tells about all this stuff.
I love
and
that.
It tells about.
I'm gonna go.
It tells about the travels and the weird things that happen in between, and it's really better than you might expect. I spent 10 years writing it.
Wow.
And it came about to I was finished. Then I had to spend about a year editing, and. But it takes a while sometimes. It was worth it.
Yeah.
And there'll be an audio version coming out next year.
Oh, there is. Cool. I was going to ask you about that. I love audio versions of books. I just don't have time to read, so I'll just put on a book while I'm driving or walking my dog or whatever. So I can't wait for that audio version to come out.
Don't say that on the air like you just did.
Oh, sorry.
Just kidding. I've had a poem that I do for the last 40 years called the Mountain Whippoorwill. It's something I do about one out of every 4 shows now. Mm-hmm. I have an illustrated book of that coming out, and we're a foreword by Steve Martin and a preface by me, and then the story, and mm-hmm. with cute pictures that go with it, and a recording. And in late 2021, there'll be a book, 50 Years of the Circle, the photographs and things from the Circle album with the stories behind it.
Cool.
And I've got one more song to do to finish a spoken word album that I'm working on with music behind it. Oh, actually, it's either I want to enter it in the rap category, and when they throw it out, I'll say, racial. Oh, it's a racial thing. They don't want me. What? Just because because it's not. Anyway, it's.
You should. That's funny.
Yeah. You don't want to hear Fly Trouble with music behind it? Did you ever sit straight up in bed with something circling around your head? You swat it in as it whizzes by, and it's just one pesky little fly. And anyway, it's got great music behind it.
That's cool. So that record's coming out next year, you said?
Oh, I hope so, but who knows what's coming out is anymore.
Right.
With the current... I'm going to put it out somehow. Mm-hmm. Maybe, it'll be out next year.
Cool.
No time to put... I've kind of held off on releasing stuff because there's a bunch of people that have to release things. Mm-hmm. And I'll just wait a while and get ready.
That's good, yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear that record, and the book and everything else you got going on is amazing. And I can't believe, you're still playing shows up until COVID hit.
Yeah, about 100 a year. I go out with 2. Pardon?
I said that's still a lot, 100 shows.
Well, depends on how you look at it. It's only 100 cities. Yeah. It's good to see the town. It takes about 120 days to do that. Actually, I think last year was about 85, and that was good. But it put me in unusual things. Mm-hmm. Just really unusual. And like last January, Bob Weir came and sat in with me. Played the whole set.
Wow.
I'd never met him before, and I'd communicated with him by email a few times. And mm-hmm. I said, "Hey, I'm playing your town. Do you want to come sit in?" He goes, "What time is sound check?" And he showed up, and it was great. Cool. Then I ended up playing with him when he played in Florida. He did one of his shows in Florida in February. That was the last show I did, actually.
Oh, really?
Last real show.
February?
February 28th. Mm-hmm. And, yeah.
Wow. Did you have anything scheduled after that show?
Oh, yeah. The one I'm playing on this Saturday, I'm playing in Nashville, Indiana. That was scheduled in March.
You're going to be able to do an actual show, or is it going to be like live streamed?
No, it's an actual show, and there's a few of them happening out there. It's a 450-seat room. They're selling 150 tickets too. They're limiting it. Uh-huh. And like I have one in Tampa, October 2nd. That's a 250-seat room that they're selling 100 tickets to.
Okay.
25 tables, 4 people a table. And, just keeping the wheels greased. And
that'll be an interesting experience, I'm sure, for you to see those first shows, back, with the current pandemic that's happening. Seeing people, like you said, there's tables with 4 people. It's not going to be the same shows you're probably used to playing.
Well, this guy that's doing the table show this will be the 3rd one he's done, the 4th one he's done, and he was saying he doesn't think he's seen a more enthusiastic audience.
Oh, that's good. People have been just itching to see live music. It's been like 6 months. So yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm glad you're able to get out and play. That's cool to hear because most, I've only talked to a handful of people that have played shows since the pandemic started, and a lot of them were like in Germany or abroad. So that's cool that they're starting to open up stuff here too.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
Well, it's good of you to let me talk to you. I appreciate
your time. I have one last question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Well, if you don't like doing what you're doing in the music business, to do what it takes to make it, and you don't want to do it like 16 hours a day, then do something else. Because it will take you, with no money too, 16 hours, you just have to do it all the time. You have to love it. But if you love what you're doing, you're way ahead of many people who have jobs that don't like what they're doing or like their job.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to work for a job you hate, but you're making good money, well, that's your trade-out, trading your life for money. If you want to trade your life for fun of making something and doing something that other people don't do or can't, or in some cases shouldn't, but then don't expect to make money from it for a while, or maybe ever. Just do it for fun. But if you really want to make a living at it, figure out how the different aspects of it. Don't limit yourself to any one thing. Don't be just a singer-songwriter, unless you're going to be a singer-songwriter that sits in one place and sends your songs out to other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to do it. But if you're going to be a performer, stage guy, and go out and do that, then you're going to do it in some very weird places. I hope, because that's what will shape your future. You're going to play some of the difficult. Let's put it this way: with the Dirt Band, I played everything from a flatbed truck to Carnegie Hall and everything in between. We're going to have you guys playing as the stage rises. Okay. When you're playing on an orchestra pit stage, it goes down into the floor. That'll be interesting. It's a round stage and it turns while you're playing. Oh, okay. It's just, you love what you're doing and you'll be fine. If at some point you don't love it, you might reconsider. Do it as a hobby. You don't have to, then do it because you love it.